Senator Dolan, please. Thank you.
Well, for us, Common Galway, I just want to say there's been great engagement, I know, with the MEPs here today, and it's absolutely wonderful to see it. I suppose I want to really thank MEP Maria Walsh, particularly for her work on gender-based violence and LGBTQI rights, particularly for mental health, and for MEP Colin Markey as well. I know he's going to be attending a launch event of Europe Direct Library in Ballinasloe next Monday. And I suppose it's really important. These are 8 Europe Direct libraries that drive out the conference on the future of Europe and engagement with the EU as well. I suppose for me, just Leader European funding is crucial. There's 25 local community groups. I mean, that's Roscommon Leader Programme for us and Roscommon, and it's Galway Rural Development in Galway, enterprise, broadband, tourism, biodiversity, renewable energies. It's really important. It's ways to incentivise people to live and work in the West, and it's all about that broadband, remote working. I suppose a spokesperson on further and higher education, I might ask MEP Walsh a little bit on the apprenticeship programmes. How is Europe going to help us increase young people and people of all ages to get skilled up? You know, a lot of people career changing, all ages, but with the future work, what are the skills required? And I suppose MEP Markey, if I could ask you to focus a little bit on the role of young people and Macra na Firma, particularly in our regional areas. I know you have a lot of background and experience in that too. Gurmagat.
So I won't go over time, thank you, Senator Dolan, again for your kind words and all your work you're doing, in particular around vocational education training. We spoke at length previously around the impact that we're removing the stigma that Erasmus Plus or apprenticeships are just for some and not for all, and breaking down that barrier of communication and really looking beyond just what a highbrow academic career can give you, but also that work on the ground. And I also acknowledge your point around the EDIC. I think they're a phenomenal network and certainly something that we need to promote and continue to engage with. In terms of the VET and vocational as a whole, I had put forward through the Employment Committee and got political support right across the House for almost like a portal for others to feed into opportunities, both in apprenticeships or full-time roles of all ages, removing the restriction, because I think lifelong learning has to become a part of our everyday work environment and study environment, that we're not just finishing secondary school or a third level and then we're removing ourselves from the education stream. That portal, though, would ensure that it covers all 27 member states. So someone in Midlands-North-West in your own constituency could travel anywhere across the EU and engage with and talk about the benefits of the European Union, but also get skills that they might not receive here in Ireland but can do across. So that's something that we're working on. I do want to acknowledge, though, in the State of the Union speech last week by Ursula von der Leyen, she'd mentioned ALMA, a new programme for younger people, again around vocational education training to feed into opportunities similar to the portal I just mentioned. So I'll make sure and relay that information. With 13 seconds left, I just want to feed into a little bit around agriculture, because I think, to your point, we speak with women farmers a lot. Macra has a large female representative, and I certainly look forward to working with you and Colin Markey and making sure women are very much a part of the CAP coming up. Thank you. Thanks, Saskira.
Very much for that. MEP Markey, please.
Thank you very much for the questions. I think they were very appropriate. For one thing, you made reference to leader and development work in that area. As a former chair of a leader company for 4 years, I fully appreciate the role that leader companies play in both economic and in community development in rural areas. So I'd be very supportive of any investment in that whole space. In relation to the apprenticeship piece, I suppose, just to pick up on that one, I know Maria is very strong on this as well, but as someone who didn't have the benefit of a university third level education, I have an enormous value in the vocational educational system in terms of what it does and apprenticeships, what it does for people who aren't necessarily academic but are in no less way intelligent, if you like. And I think the system as we have it is very judgmental, is very disparaging towards people who don't go to a third level education. I think it's something we need to address. And one thing that I always point out, and I think it's very central to this, is if you look at the amount of people out there in society today who started with an apprenticeship and run their own businesses, some of the best entrepreneurs we have in the country, the length and breadth of the country, from the man with the one-man van to the people that have, I have a couple of guys I deal with a bit, an electrician that has 80 vans on the road. That fella started from a situation where he did an apprenticeship. We have absolutely no respect for that type of education and where people can go from there, and we need to change that fundamentally. Just in relation to what you mentioned about Macra and rural Ireland, I suppose, look, to carry on the same theme, there's so many people in rural Ireland who don't necessarily go to third level university education. I've always looked in organisations like Macra as the clubs and societies of university for people in rural areas. And I think the potential it has to sustain and support young people in rural areas and to give them opportunities, organisations like Macra and Ferma are vital.